Welcome back to another episode of The Halal Gap. My name is Sikandar Atiq. I'm your co-host, and I'm alongside
Sofia Alani, your other co-host.
And as always, we got behind the mixer, Hamada. Hamada, where are you at?
What's up?
Amazing. Today, we're very excited to be joined by a special guest from right here in Edmonton.
Omar Farah is a 23-year-old Somali-Canadian award-winning poet, engineer in training, and community builder. Although he is relatively new to the spoken word scene, Omar has managed to make a name for himself locally and abroad as the former Edmonton Slam champion, winner of the Saskatchewan Festival of Words, and finalist in the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word. He has performed across Canada and the United States, from small local cafes to the Hard Rock, and today he's here with us. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I realize I should really update that because I don't think I'm really that new to the scene anymore. I think I wrote that
I think anybody who's performed at the Hard Rock Cafe can't say that they're new to the scene anymore. You know, that's like what you get once you've made it.
We didn't make it yet.
I don't know what making it is in the poetry world, but for me, it would be Hard Rock, in my opinion.
Making it, bro. If you actually knew the story of how that whole thing even came about, I would, bro.
I mean, we're gonna definitely get into that. We will definitely get into that. What is the story?
I realize this is kind of what the whole thing is about. Basically, like my parents don't necessarily. I wouldn't say they don't know too much about the whole poetry thing that I do, but they were never. I don't want to say unsupportive, but like they just kind of were like, oh yeah, he does poetry sometimes, and sometimes he goes to places and performs, right, and comes back. But like that really was the only time my parents would like let me go out, like, or fly on my own, even though I'm like a grown man at this point. And it was right around graduation time, and then me and a couple friends wanted to go to LA, and I couldn't justify it. I couldn't think of a reason. I didn't have a gig. I didn't have nothing. Just wanted to go just for the hell of it and having a good time, catch a K-pop concert, live my life. And I had to find a way. I got to finesse my manager to see if there was any way she could get me a booking anywhere in the state of California. I don't care where it is. I will drive there. I will take a plane, train, automobile to make it there. Just get me something near LA. And somehow, after finessing this guy that she knew back in high school, who now works as the guy that books gigs for them, said, hey, they happen to have been doing like a poetry slam-esque type thing. She like really bigged me up to him and somehow got me on the list of performers, and thus my alibi came about. I really hope my parents are listening to this right now.
Wow. And where, like, it was the Hard Rock in Vegas or in LA?
No, LA, the one on Hollywood.
Oh, amazing.
Whoa. Yeah. And how was that? Like, what was that like?
Very quiet. Honestly, it was very like literally like the stereotypical. There was like at least 3 people wearing berets and people actually like snapping their fingers, like drinking wine, and I was like, dude, this is what the people think we do all the time, and it's actually happening. And it was different. I liked it. It was really calm though, and just the coincidence of there being like a poetry slam, and I think it was like one of the first that they've ever done there. The same week that I was trying to be there was just, I thought this was God, man. God wanted me to go there.
Yeah, man. That's pretty wicked. And so was it like a competition or a performance?
No, it was just a performance. Performance. Yeah. And
that's very cool.
At that point, I think they just sent him, like, she has I don't know what she does in order to market me to other people, but like at that point, I think I did like a TED Talk the week prior, and she just had like a beautiful little marketing package to get to them, because at that point I was still really early on in like my poetry professionalism, because I've only been doing it like to the public since about 2017, and it was around then that she did it. And even the TED Talk shouldn't have happened. Like that was also just like a friend hooking it up the first time that I went up there. It was just like a lot. I think my whole artistic career has just been a series of hookups and opportunity matching preparation at the right time.
I mean, that's how it is, right? That's awesome. You got to take advantage of opportunities when they come your way and work hard to get those opportunities. So that's awesome. There you go.
That's very sweet. So that was so you did two TED Talks then.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, so you did one in
yeah.
2017 and then one more recently, like about a year ago,
Last year, I think, like
2019.
around last. Yeah, I was like literally around right now last year.
Yeah,
April.
I
Yeah.
watched that today. I'm
Okay.
sad to say for the first time,
I
and
watched
that
it
was
in
like
March because
so
I'm a real fan.
dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever.
Real guy,
Get
real
out
guy,
of here.
real guy. I
That was
appreciate you.
so dope
Watched it today
though.
just to remind myself. But
Yeah, whatever. He was talking about how he was also blown away, so that was Def's the first time he's seen it. Don't let
I
him
know
fool you.
I'm blown away every time. That's I clarify.
Merci,
But
merci, merci.
that was really cool. And in that TED Talk, you talk about a lot of different, like you touch on a lot of different things. So you touch on like your background. You kind of talk about, like saviorism
Mm-hmm.
among people going to Africa and having this attitude, like African countries and having this attitude, when your people like don't need to be saved. And then you also talk about like politics at the like so like how do you where do you get your inspiration from, like there's that was so much wicked information, and the way that you put it in words is just so beautiful and like really well done and very easy to just marvel at. So I have questions about how you do that.
I appreciate you. I appreciate it. Honestly, I like to think I'm the average Joe's poet, if I could say the least. Like I'm not. I think I'm not too deep when it goes into whether it's like political pieces or think pieces or anything that touches on like a social justice issue, because I know myself and I know what I listen to. I know what my friends listen to, and I always try to make it digestible for them. So anytime I do write something, I kind of think of it with those guys in mind, the guys that'll come over to my house to play video games from time to time, the guys that I see around at events and things like that, and aren't really sitting at home reading Alec Baldwin or, uh, you know, Maya Angelou for fun type of thing. Like I indulge in that type of art and that type of poetry myself, but all of my favorite poets, like Ursula Man, like Prentice Powell, Kanye West, like they make it digestible, and I think that's something that I always aim to do. So when I'm writing or looking, I wouldn't say I really look for inspiration. The way that I like my creative process just kind of happens as I'm going about my day, as I'm driving, as I'm walking anywhere. I always have my phone on me, like I think anyone else does, and I just have my notepad just kind of like ready to go at any time. So if I think of like a line or I'm watching the news and something strikes me, I'll kind of pull out my notepad and I'll jot down a few lines, like a few, even if it's just a few words, or I'll draw a picture of what it reminded me of. And then whenever I do get around to writing an actual piece, whether it be something that's commissioned or something that I know I need to prepare for, I just kind of go through that notepad full of inspo, and something just comes from it 9 times out of 10. And most of the pieces that I've written haven't taken me more than like, some of them take me like 10 minutes to write. So I'm taking about less than an hour to write, give or take. But like they all happen pretty quickly after I try to put myself back in the space I was when I made that note in my notepad, if that
Mm.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Uh,
so what's the weirdest place you've ever had like been struck by inspiration,
Weirdest place I've been struck. Uh,
or like weirdest
coolest.
circumstance?
Okay. I wrote this last time, and I think this is a piece that I performed at the Mosquers little shindig that we organized for Black History Month, where I was on vacation. I was just like me and like my mom and my cousin, and we were in Italy, in Rome, and we got to the Vatican, right? And I'm standing there in front of the Vatican, and I'm FaceTiming my pops, and I'm just showing him. I'm like, "Yo, look, what's happening? What's up? What's up? What's up?" And there's like a really big picture of the Pope just kind of there, right? And he just goes, "Wow, that's crazy. I remember when I was a kid, me and your uncles used to be the kids that would like mop the floor and sweep and put out the chairs for Sunday service." And I was just like really taken aback by that, because like that's within a single generation, I guess, like where my dad was, all of his friends, and now his son was coming back to visit as a tourist. Um, just that whole 360 really hit me, and it kind of struck a chord, and I just kind of sat down in a public stall inside of Vatican City, and I wrote the piece that I performed there that night, and it's one of my favorites.
Wow. So that was another question I had is like, that's your favorite piece you've ever written?
I wouldn't say it's my favorite. It's one of my favorites. I don't know if I have a
Okay.
favorite yet. I don't think any artist or poet does. They have ones that hit the best. They have ones that get the most oohs and ahs when they perform, or the most snaps. But uh, I think I haven't reached a point yet where I've written something where I can say from start to finish, I love it. It's perfect. I wouldn't change a single word in it. Because even when I perform any pieces, there's poems that I've done dozens of times where I don't think I've performed it the same way twice. Either I'll change like the tones or the cadences and or the pronunciation, the speed, because I feel like it needed it at that time when I'm performing it. So I think each piece that I've ever written, I've never done the same way back to back ever. And until I get a piece that I can, that I think doesn't require any changes, that's when I'll say I have a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, talking about that specifically, I mean, something that you don't, I think, realize until you see it, is that so much of what you do, or I guess slam poetry more generally, is about the performance and not just about what's written. Growing up, I mean, I'm sure you guys had to as well, but like having to study classic poetry in English class was like painfully boring. But then as I got older, I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with the Nuyorican Poets Cafe in New York,
Uh
but
huh.
I used to
My
be
goal.
literally every week almost. I would go down there and hang out, and you get to see these like incredible performances, and it's exactly what it's like. It truly is a performance, like a very like visceral, like full body performance, right? So
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
like how has that been incorporated within your pieces? Is it something that you're actively thinking about when you're writing, is like, okay, here's how I want to perform it? Or is it more so
Hmm.
you write the piece and then when you get up there, it's like, I'm going to read the crowd and do this how I feel is going to be most receptive?
I think it's a little bit of both, depending on the crowd. So, like, there's pieces that I write where I'm saying, okay, around this part, I'm gonna get a little angry. Around this part, I'm probably gonna calm it down a bit. I'm just gonna slow it down a bit here. But then, depending on like what the vibe is in the room, you bend to the will of the crowd, I guess. And me personally, I take that part really seriously. I know there's some people that are like, I don't water down my poetry. It should be, even if I sat there and I read it with a straight face, not changing my voice or pitch at all, they should still hit the same. And I agree with those people to a certain extent. But I see spoken word poetry, the reason it's not like read is because it ought to be orated, spoken, and with every like bit of my voice that I could use is what I intend to use if I'm performing in front of you. I want to keep your attention. I know that I get bored sometimes when I'm watching some of my other favorite poets perform. I think it should be really captivating. It's beyond just the words. You see me, you should feel the presence of the words in front of you when someone's performing. Or at least that's how I get it. And that's how all my favorite poets perform.
You touched a little bit on that inspiration of just everyday life being where you draw your source of creativity around your poetry or get your ideas from. Is poetry for you, and is writing for you, I guess, more specifically, is it something that you have to consciously think about, or is it something that it's like, when it comes, and it is what it is? Or is it something where if you're trying to turn it into potentially something more, you have to say like, okay, no, I'm going to spend like 2-3 hours today to write, and like I'm going to just focus on it and just make sure it gets
I
done?
think for me, like I said, personally, I can't work in the way where, okay, I'm gonna sit down and for the next 2 hours I'm gonna bust something out. Unless someone's paying me to do that. In that case, I would do it. But most of the time, it's just I have an urge to just write or type something out, and either I'll hear something and it'll like spark something where I'm like, hey, this is a good enough idea or premise that I could get a good piece to come out of this. Um, or I'll see a tweet and I'm like, this could be something, and I'll take that and I'll just run with it for as long as I can until the candle burns out. And I'll most of the time it works out, sometimes it doesn't. If you guys could see, like, have a couple of notepads. Like that's like the one thing I always recommend my friends to get me. If you're gonna get me a gift, if you go anywhere around the world, come back with like a cool little like notepad. Like my friend went to Tokyo and got me a little anime one, and it's nice. So like, because I run through them like water, and if you see my Google Drive account, it's just you could take a couple wholesome strokes through, and 95% of it is complete trash that should never see the light of day. Uh, but that 5% that remains, I'm able to look at it and erase about 4.5% of it until I'm left with like half a page of something that I think would be worth performing in front of someone on a stage and taking those that 2, that 3, that 5, 10 minutes of their time, you know. But I don't really sit down and force myself to ever write. It's just something that kind of comes here and there. You know? It's a vibe. It's a vibe.
And you mentioned that like in your TED Talk. I'm sorry, I'm so obsessed with this TED Talk, but you mentioned it as well. Because I think I've heard this from a few of the particularly Somali poets that I know, but a lot of the Black poets that I know are they're like Black people are like storytellers, like naturally, historically, this is how we shared knowledge and passed it down from generation to generation. So do you feel like you've said in a lot of ways, like this is something that's almost like innate to you? Like you don't really have a choice. Like you're a born poet and that's just how it's going to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for anyone that's listening that doesn't know, so I'm from Somalia, and amongst other Africans, and amongst ourselves, we were often referred to back in the day as the nation of poets. And reason being because back in the day, whenever there were tribesmen who would argue amongst themselves, or when people were on the brink of going to tribal war with one another, the people that were always held to like the highest standard and always the highest, like most revered in the community around the tribe was always the poet, right? Whoever was that tribe's poet. And before some men and women would go to war, they would send the 2 best poets out of each of their tribes to kind of go up and do like a historic rap battle type of thing where the winner would take all and not a single drop of blood would be shed, truly believing that the pen was mightier than the sword. And I was always just I was in love with that idea. And my mom would tell me about this like when I was a kid, and my uncles would too. So whenever I would go out to Somali events, which is like pretty often, like they would always be just happy that that tradition is kind of being kept alive. It might not be used like in a similar manner as it was back in the day, but like I really do think that this is like I was born to do something like this because of who my ancestors are, who my granddaddies and my grandmamas from way back when are, and I hope in some way, you know, if we are all reunited in Jannah, that you know we can talk smack and maybe write a little 1-2 pieces together.
That's really, really cool.
So you touched on your upbringing there a little bit. Tell us a little bit more. Did you grow up in Edmonton? Where did you grow up? How did you first get introduced to the idea of poetry? Tell us the background story, the origin story of Omar Farah. Go.
The origin is from Ottawa, Ontario, is where I was born, and didn't kick it off too long though. We ended up moved around a lot back then. Like we lived in France for a bit, Quebec, lived in Egypt and the UAE, settled in Somalia for a few years in Djibouti. So like between the ages of like existence to about 10, there was a lot of moving around. Majority of it though was in Ottawa.
Did you pick up languages as you went through the different?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. English was our third language, third or fourth,
wow.
I think.
Wait, so how many languages can you speak?
With confidence, or on my resume?
Well, I mean, on your resume, and then with
I say resume, yeah.
On my resume, I'm clear at everything. I speak Arabic, I speak Korean if you need me to, everything in between. But like legit, I could speak Somali, English, and French. Are like my go-tos. Those are like the 3 that I can say with confidence. If you need me to write something, I got you. If you need me to go up in front of a crowd of people and speak, those are the only 3 languages I will even attempt. And even Somali. So actually, yeah, Somali.
And how many are on your resume? Just for clarity.
I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 7.
Oh,
right now.
wow.
big lies. Ooh,
Is
okay.
it Korean? Like, what would be the most unusual language? The one that people would be
Korean, definitely
surprised.
Korean, but people don't
Korean?
realize it's easy. It is a really easy language to learn.
Really?
I've
Like,
heard that from a lot of people. Apparently, the letters are like the shape of your mouth. Is that true?
What?
That like
What?
I have a friend who went and she
Omar,
was
can you
in
fact check this real quick? What?
I wouldn't say so unless you can contort your mouth in some really weird ways.
What does that even mean?
Listen, okay, I had a friend and she was
Was she
teaching.
Korean?
No, she was
That's the first. See,
brown.
this is problematic,
No,
Sophia.
no, no, but she was in Korea. She taught there. She lived there for like 2 years. And she was like, I taught myself Korean very, very easily. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. How did that happen? And she was like, well, one of the things that helped was that like you can kind of easily learn how to speak it from reading it because the shape of the letters is the shape that your mouth makes. And I was like, what? Did she lie to me?
I'm so glad we have Omar here to fact check.
Like some of the letters I could see it, but not
Like the letter O in
now.
English, for example.
Shut
Letter
up.
O. No, the letter O is like a flat bar with it's like the letter T in English almost.
Oh,
But
wow.
Oh.
Korean is
Anyway.
definitely. I think like in 10 minutes you could be literate. Like if I sat next time I see you guys, both give
Really?
me 10 minutes of your time, and I can make you literate in Korean.
Okay.
Damn.
Next time we're finally
down.
able to meet in person, we'll go for Korean
Yeah.
barbecue, and you can teach us Korean by the end of the meal.
Inshallah, man.
It's one of those random ones. I think it's because the language itself. I remember reading it. It was like developed not long ago. It was like 100, 200 years ago or something like that. When majority of the country at the time was illiterate, and the king, like when he was getting the men to develop the language, said make it simple enough so that the average man can learn it within a day or something like that.
Oh,
So it's
that's
like
so
really
cool.
easy language to pick up on, and like short syllables, make all the words, every word as a syllable in length. Like it's really, really
This
easy.
is a really ignorant question, but is North Korean dialect different than South Korean?
I think it's kind of like how I might be wrong in this.
Also, I love how you've
comparison here,
just
but like
become the
how
Korea aficionado. But keep
you
going.
gotta survive. You guys teach you guys that. I think it's kind of like how guys from Pakistan and India, like if they're speaking certain dialects
Yeah, I got you.
can
Okay,
kind of
okay.
understand Hindi type of thing, you know?
All right. I see what
Like
you
that.
did there. Okay, nice. Way to relate. Ooh, we gotta finish. We gotta finish his background story. So you got through to Djibouti. We're at Djibouti.
So yeah, Somalia, lived in Djibouti for a while, and then came back to Ottawa. Then Edmonton is like where we settled down, and I think that was like end of elementary school. That was when we got here, like around the 6th grade. And that at that point, I used to go to French school like my entire existence. So like this is the first time I was going like an English school, you know. So I had some trouble at first with like most of my classes. Wasn't a fan of English class whatsoever. I hated it. And then French class, I would just laugh because like the kids, like French that people learn here is like it's like remedial. And I was in elementary school, so I was like, maybe back then, I'm looking back, maybe it was supposed to be easy because it's elementary school. But like, even in high school, I remember getting to like grade 10, taking French 30, and like these guys are still doing grade 1, 2 French. But so I scraped my way through elementary and junior high, and I didn't really pick up on writing until I was about. How old are you when you're in grade 10? I think it was like 13ish.
15?
15?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless you graduated like mad young. How old were you when you graduated?
Graduated at 17, so it was like probably 14 when I got to high school.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
fair enough.
Think, yeah. So then 14 is when I first started writing, plus or minus a year. Let's go with that. And it was in grade 10. It was my social studies class with Mr. Barch, and what he did was like he would give us like options on what to do for our class projects, so it wouldn't just be like a PowerPoint presentation or a poster. He kind of did like these things called choice boards. So he would let you take your pick if you can come up with a creative idea. As long as you pitch it to him and he's cool with it, he will let you do it. And around then, what was really popping was Super Hot Fire on YouTube. This guy that would do like rap battles, parodies. I guess. I don't know if you guys remember, where we're on that side of the internet. But so all these kids at that point, two guys in my class, uh, just had to go to the teacher and they're like, "Yo, Mr. Barch, can we make like a rap battle on globalization?" And he was like, that sounds groovy. Go ahead, do it, make it happen." And they go up, they make the corniest thing I ever seen in my life. And at that that was one of those kids that thought I was like too smart for my age. You know, my parents put me in AP classes, so I thought all of a sudden I was, smarter than everybody. You know, I was listening to Mortal Technique and underground hip hop, so I thought I was top dog. So I'm sitting there like, man, I could kill these guys right now. So then, wow, as soon as they're done, other people are going up to present their stuff. I started writing down like a little piece. And then I go up to Mr. Barch. I'm like, hey, can I switch my like thing and do a rap too, or like a poem? And he's like, yeah, sure, go right ahead. I go up, and it was like, I swear to God, it was like a communist manifesto that I did up there for like 5 minutes, and everyone just like the class's jaw dropped. I like people didn't even realize. I think like the second half of that whole thing, I plagiarized like an Immortal Technique song somewhere in there. But they just thought like, yo, this kid, he's got it. And then I didn't write anything that year. It was second semester, grade 10. So then grade 11, my first semester, I was taking social studies again, and my social studies teacher from that year got word from my old teacher. They were like, hey, yeah, Omar, by the way, he does these funky little cool rap things for his project. You should get him to do it. It's really entertaining. I said, sure, why not? My teacher comes up to me, says, hey, can you do this? Can you write like a poem about the Rwandan genocide? I was like, sure.
Ooh, that is a heavy title.
Right? Um, so I go ahead and I'm like, yeah, sure. I write something up. I get my friends to help me with the presentation of it. And it was really fun and cool. And my social studies teacher at that time, I don't know how, but like was connected to the poet laureate of the city at the time. So then I get an email to like my school like account from the poet laureate saying, "Hey, can you come on CBC today? We would love to hear that poem you made." I was like, "What? Sure, wow, why not?" It's funny because when they introduced me on the radio, I got the funnest thing was I got to ditch class to go to the radio. I go. One of my friends had a spare. He drops me off at City Center. I get on the radio. They introduce me as a Rwandan citizen, and I'm like, nah.
Oh no.
I'm like, I
They,
bet.
they didn't do the research that we did, clearly.
Like, they go up, I perform my thing, they dig it, I leave. Then it kind of became, I was like, hey, maybe I should like dive into this a little deeper. I met a guy in the city. One of my mentors, his name is Ahmed Nomadic, and he's like
Yeah.
a phenomenal poet. If you guys haven't heard of him, and he also Somali, and he just kind of encouraged me to pick up the pen and just keep writing. And that's what my friends taught me. Yo, you should pick up your pen, keep writing. And then I think it was 2017, the first time that I like publicly performed. And it was at a slam that was for the city, like the citywide competition thing, I guess. And I ended up winning that competition, and then I was like the poet in the city at that point. And then from there, I got hit up to go to Saskatchewan to perform a couple things. Then I got more opportunities in the city. From there, I got to be on a team representing Edmonton to go perform in Ontario for the Canadian Festival of Spoken Word. That year, it was being held in Peterborough, like a tiny little town in Ontario, not too far from Toronto. They pick a random city every single year. So I go up, we perform, and we're kind of like we're judged as like a team, right? So my team, we didn't all do too well, but I got a decent score while I was performing, and this lady comes up to me after the finals and is like, "Hey, do you have anyone representing you?" And I'm like, "What do you mean representing me? I, I represent myself. How can I help you?" And then
Change
she's
your
like,
voice real quick. Yeah.
my vernacular got exponentially better as soon as she's like, "How can I help you today?" And then And then from there, she's the one that made the connections for me. She helped me get my name out there, got me a lot of gigs that I probably wouldn't have gotten on my own, and she's the one that kind of got me in a lot of places. And I think a few of my friends at the time a lot of them worked in government. I don't know why it was the thing. A lot of my friends were in provincial government for some reason, and so whenever they were organizing things for like Black History Month or Islamic Heritage Month, like they would just slip my name in there, and then from then on, your usual networking, and then all of a sudden I'm performing at the Parliament, and then people just start to
Whoa.
take you a little bit more seriously from
No
them. And
kidding.
at that point, I thought I was gonna make. I thought I was still in school while this was all happening. I was like crying at school because I was taking like a full course load of like engineering classes. This was like I think like third year ish, where I was like, hey, maybe I could like just because I hated it. Oh God, I hated it so much. I was like, leave school and find a way to make this full time, but I need a sign from God. And then like that next like day, I got hit up by someone to perform at this place, and they wanted me to talk for like 20 minutes. And I was like, how the hell am I going to talk for 20 minutes? What am I going to talk about? What do you want me to say? At that point, I only had like a handful of poems, and I didn't, and they all had like nothing to do with each other, and it had nothing to do with what the audience wanted at that point, because it was like a healthcare organization or union, and I was like, yeah, I don't know, man. I
Is that a typical conference keynote? Like, let's get some spoken word. That's pretty
That's
impressive.
what I was confused about, but
Yeah, that's awesome.
I and at that point, I was just like, hey, I tried to like not be too enthusiastic about it, but uh, and I was just like, listen, I charged $2,000 for that long. I'm sorry.
Ooh.
And then Buddy was like, yeah, sure, no problem. It's worth it. Let's do it. We signed up. And then I was like,
Dream
God,
big.
is this the sign you were trying to give me? Should I drop out of school? And I'm reading my email as I'm walking past like the student union building, and I'm like, I could drop out right now. There's the office. There's the register. And I did it. I finished. But it was just crazy. And I think at that point I was like, yeah, I should take this more seriously and try to grow this to the best of my ability. Uh, and that's the origin. I don't know how it got to that point, but like yeah, origin stories. I
That's
started writing a
awesome.
That's
poem
so
as
good.
a joke, and now it's paying bills.
That's
Did you
awesome.
say you performed at the Parliament? You slipped that in there.
Yeah, yeah, that was 2018, I think.
Wow, how did that happen?
Similar situation. I got really tight with a couple of MLAs and MPs, and they had it was for poetry month. I don't know which month it was. I think it was March 2018. And they were just doing a whole special there. They brought a lot of local poets, local greats, a lot of people from Toronto. Most of them are from Toronto. And Canada's spoken word scene is like strongly in Toronto, but Edmonton is slowly on the come up, high key. And yeah, so I just went there, met a few more people. A lot of it's just the artist scene in Canada, although I feel like it's a lot harder to like blow here compared to like if you're from New York, something like that, and you perform a few times at, like Sikandar said, if you're at like the New Yorican cafes, if you're at the right place, you're good for life after one performance. But in Canada, it's a little bit harder if you're not from Toronto specifically. That's like the only city that people really kind of blow or make it from. So it's
Mm.
a lot of networking, a lot of random networking, and then as soon as you become that guy or that gal that they bring out to a lot of these functions, then people are very loyal to that, and we keep a very tight community. I think I'm pretty in good books with like a lot of the poet laureates around the country, and I think that really helps.
That's awesome. So you had mentioned back a little while with the languages. So do you write poetry in French or Amharic or Tigrinya? I don't know which one.
Somali. Don't speak Amharic, but maybe I will eventually. It's a little harder to learn. I tried once, but I do write a lot of poems in Somali. A few in French, not as much in French. I just feel like my understanding of French is very technical, if that makes sense. Like I could write you an essay, but I wouldn't know. I'm not that comfortable with everyday talk in French, you know. So like I can
Mhm.
comfortable with on like a business term, very formal vocabulary when it comes to French because I don't really have a lot of people. Like my family, it's only my little brother who's like in high school that speaks French, and then my mom sometimes speaks French, but no one else in the house does. A lot of my friends aren't francophone, so I never had the chance to really grow that side of French. But English
Mhm.
and Somali, I think, are my two go-tos, and sometimes I sprinkle some Arabic in there.
Cool, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, Talking more about sort of the local scene as it relates to poetry. How have you ingrained yourself within the kind of the Edmonton arts community, the Edmonton poetry community? Do you feel like it is supportive, especially considering that you come with a fairly unique voice, being both, you know, a proud Somali as well as a proud Muslim, and it's something that
Mhm.
you incorporate within your poetry as well? Is that something that has been generally accepted and you know celebrated, or has it become almost more of a barrier and a struggle? How has that entire experience been?
I think we have a really, really diverse scene in Edmonton. And I think I've grown with a lot of the people that are like major names in the city, like Ahmed Nomadic, the current poet laureate, Nisha Patel. Like we kind of came up together. She was on the team with me when we went to
Yeah, Nisha's
Peterborough
great.
that one
Nisha's
year.
awesome.
Yeah. So like we all kind of came up, I think, roughly. Or actually, like Nisha's been doing it a lot longer than I have, and so has Ahmed. But they kind of took me under their wing and were like, "Hey, you should do this. Hey, fix your invoices. Hey, fix your contracts." And they've really helped me come up. As for the audiences, they've all been very receptive. I think of my voice, of other poets in the cities like Timiros and Nasra,
Mhm.
Adam. You know, like I'm not even sure why. There's some times where I'm doing a piece and I'm like, I know 98.7% of you guys have no idea like where I'm coming from with this, or I'll make like a reference to the Quran, and they're still picking up on what I'm putting down. And I think that all comes back to the fact that I try to make it very digestible. You know, like when I have a line that says, um, I got a friend who's got plenty of brothers to keep six, but can barely keep five. So that's like a reference to, so like some street lingo saying keep six, like watch your back, but keep five as a Muslim, 5 times a day type of thing. And they'll still be snapping their fingers. I'm like, oh, did you guys really get that? Or are you just like snapping out of this because like you feel like you have to type of thing? And you can never really tell sometimes, but after enough time, the city deserves a lot more credit. They've been more than welcoming of us. There's uh, wildly diverse scene in Edmonton, and I think we do have the best poets in the country, and people are just starting to recognize it.
Wow.
That's dope. So you had mentioned a little bit about some travel that you've done. So you've gone to Italy and other places that you mentioned. And like, so where else have you been? And like, how do you get a lot of creative influence from travel? And do you have any cool, crazy travel stories? I've heard you might have a couple.
Oh, I got a lot. I feel like all my fun or like craziest stories were like from when I was a kid in Somalia, and it was like me and my brother just doing foolish, foolish things. But I traveled. I enjoy travel a lot. Like I try to travel as much as I can. Last year, I was lucky enough to go to like I did like a little trip all around Europe. I had anytime I get someone flying me out somewhere, honestly, I just kind of let them hold off on a return ticket, and I'll just kind of hop around, see what's around there. So I was lucky. I had someone fly me out to London. So I was like, well, I'm in the continent. Let me see what's up. Like a flight from London to Turkey was like $80. I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere here. So I went to like the UK, Turkey, Greece, Italy, and France last year. Um, all the colonizer hotspots while I was there. I was chilling.
Gotta hit them all up.
You did the
And
tour, the colonizer tour.
the trifecta, I hit all of them at once, you know. And at that, I was like, I'd like to think I gained a lot more of like a broader view on the world. Because like when you travel to like a lot of third world countries, like if you visit Somalia or Kenya or and then I go to Rome, like just to see the vast spectrum of life that's like all around here gives you a lot better of an understanding of the world. So when I'm trying to write something, I think it gives me a little bit of an edge there because I'm a lot more, uh, I guess, introspective of all the different walks of life that are out there. And I know that my story is just that. It's just my story. I know that a lot of other people probably live wildly different lives than I do. I think the craziest stories that I have are hands down all coming out of Somalia when I was a kid. It was like every day was a movie. Either I was coming home with scars, injuries, knocked out, not. I was unconscious for 4 days at some point. I remember as a kid,
What?
my grandma telling
What?
me, like,
How did that happen?
cause you have a lot of freedom as a kid. Like you'll be a toddler, but have like the knowingness and the freedom to travel around like you're an adult. Like, cause like everyone knows everyone. So like if anything ever happens, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's so and so's grandson. We know where they live. They'll bring them back. And like, I just remember as a kid, like me and my cousin would be riding up the side of a mountain on our bikes, but we had like two bikes, but like one bike was trash and then one was decent. So we would both take turns on like the good bike. And I got selfish at some point. I was like, nah, I'm not giving this back to you. And I tried to like outride him, but we were going like uphill, so I couldn't go as fast as I wanted. He just got off the bike and started running after me and just pushed me, and then I fell and just started tumbling off the side of this little hill slash rocky mountain, and I ended up with like a rock going through my skull, and I was just like gone. He left me, abandoned me there. Goes back home. I am bleeding out. I thought I was dying. They come back for me hours later. They take me to the hospital and they patch me up and I'm good. And like me and that cousin have like a lot of like random wild stories. I'm pretty sure at some point got finessed into doing some like organ trafficking that we didn't realize until like much later on. Very foolish kids, man. And that's a story we're not gonna put on the record though. But yeah, a lot of fun times in the motherland.
We heard there. I mean, like I told you before, we've done extensive background on you before this interview. We heard about some sort of a story involving a drone in Turkey. We're going to need to know the details of that.
I'm dead.
I'm sorry, bro. I'm really sorry.
Hamada from
I
the
never.
shadows lurks out to just say his
Wow.
story. So this is going to be good.
Wow. Okay, I got semi arrested, but not really arrested, but arrested. While I was in Turkey last year, anytime I travel somewhere, I try to get like a lot of footage, and I make these like cute little travel vlogs of me or like with my friends and all that. So I was just trying to get some B-roll, just casually living my life. And at that point in time, my knowledge of laws when it comes to aerial photography was not that great. All I know is that I got this drone and I'm about to use it. So I'm there. I'm inside the Eye Sophia, and so like the people that see pictures of Turkey, it's like that pink building. And I'm like in the courtyard. I'm like, wow, this would be a great time to like get some footage. So I go outside. I'm like pretty far away enough. I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna see anybody. No one can see me. I'll do what I gotta do. I pull out my drone and I just start letting it fly, and I'm just amazing footage all around. I still have it to this day. I shouldn't, but I'm flying it around, and then all of a sudden, I'm like focused on the thing because this is hiking very reckless, and I should not have done this in retrospect. I'm flying like really not really close to the building, but like far away enough. But there's cables all around, like telephone cables. And I was trying to avoid hitting him, so my eyes were just fixated on this little dot in the sky that's so far away at this point. And I look down, and I'm like surrounded by these burly Turkish dudes in uniform, and I'm like, and they're talking to me, and I don't speak Turkish, so I don't understand what they're saying. I just know that they're angry, like you can pick up on this. And then I'm like, la, no, I don't know how to say language. And then they're like, English, English. I'm like, yes, English. And then they leave. They bring a guy. At this point, I'm trying to bring the drone down as fast as we can, but like the home feature, it just wasn't functioning, so I had to manually like guide
Oh
it to
my
come back to
god.
me. And this is like, it feels like an eternity, and it's just going so slow. And they just all started talking over each other like da 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 da, and like this doesn't sound good for me. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Uh, the drone finally comes down. I grab it. The other guy takes it out of my hand, starts yelling. He's like, "What are you doing? This is not legal. This is very illegal. What if this is a bomb?" I'm like, "Dude, it's a toy plane. It's not a bomb. Stop this." And they grab it from me, and I don't know, like I luckily just pressed the save button on my phone, so it starts downloading all the footage that I just recorded onto my phone. And the guy's like, give me the phone. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you want? You have the thing. Like, can we work something out? They're like, you're going to be arrested. You're going to be questioned. Do you have your passport on you? Do you have any like ID? I'm like, dog, I don't walk around with my passport, which is something that I do now. Anytime I travel, I just keep it on me. And then the guy is just like, you could be seeing serious jail time. And I'm like, for
Oh my
flying
god.
a drone? It's like, this is historic property. I'm like, I know. And at that point, it finished download. He's like, did you record anything? I'm like, yes, I did. He's like, delete it now. I'm like, okay. I delete it off the drone, but it's received on my phone, so I'm good in my head. Yeah, he's like, here, did you delete it? I'm like, yeah, look, I showed him my phone. It says no data or like no video. It's like, okay, pack it up. He wrote me up a little warning, patted me on the back, took away my access to the Isla Sofia for the rest of the day. I had a day pass,
Oh
and
Oh.
man.
I was on my merry way, but I got what I needed. I was already done. I was like on my way out, but yeah, so that happened.
Wow. Wow. Moral of the story,
Damn.
I guess, just try and just hope you don't get caught. And if you do, just talk your way out of it. That's the moral, right? That's the moral.
I didn't know it was illegal. What do you mean? It's a toy.
Yeah.
That's wild. That's wild.
That's
We're gonna get a call from like the
insane.
Turkish police right after this airs, being
Like,
like,
you know where
"Give
it
me home
is.
address of Omar Farah."
Hopefully not. Hopefully
It's
not.
over for you, man. It's over for you.
Yeah, doing the whole was the worst decision of your life.
It ruined me.
Yeah.
But yeah, good
Too
time.
funny.
So your latest piece that you've recently created, Show and Tell. Um, let's talk about that a little bit. What was the inspiration behind it? What was the creative process? And we heard you also recently been selected to the Cadence Film Festival for 2020 with
Yeah,
that piece.
yeah.
So
Woo.
tell us about that
Woo!
entire experience.
On it was fun, and I think it's one of those pieces that changed how I view writing now. Uh, for two reasons. First being a lot of the pieces that I used to write back in the day, and were always third person, omnipotent kind of thing. Like I would be writing about some that happened to a friend of mine. I'd be writing about some that happened to a stranger that I've seen, and I would try to my best to avoid making them too personal or talk about myself per se. It would just be a witty way of me writing an experience that someone might have had or an experience that I was vaguely involved in. Because I never understood people that would go up on stage in front of hundreds of people just airing out what I thought was my dirty laundry, because that's how like we're kind of taught in our community, right? Um, and the second thing that it changed my view on is how I write now, with the intention of somehow putting it on video. I really have like kind of dived deep into the world of like videography. I'm in the midst of finishing up a script for a short film that me and a friend of mine are working on, and Hamada's got some hand in that one too. And so this piece itself, for anyone that hasn't heard it, it touches on a lot of uh, mental health, I guess, stereotypes that we might have about certain people, mental health stereotypes that I had myself, where I used to just think that it's not that serious. You know, this is just something that people claim. This is something that people talk about 1 minute on Twitter, and then 5 minutes later be back out partying, popping mollies and pills, and doing whatever it is, to kind of quote unquote cope with it. And I never understood it per se. Uh, Something that we were taught, or I was taught, is that this is very much so a quote unquote first world problem, and I never really got it.
Mm.
I didn't, mainly because I didn't go through anything like that. And anytime that was feeling down or anything like that, I was just, my go to thing in life was always just charge it to the game. Something bad happens, charge it to the game. It's a part of life. You brush yourself off and you keep pushing, but then like only after noticing time and time again, you can only kind of push everything down so far until it starts veering its head back out. So this one time I decided to just sit down and write after my first therapy session that I was very surprised about, because I thought, much like anyone else, it's like, you go in a room, there's an old white guy in a suit with a pipe, and you're on those weird curly chairs, and you just sit there. He says, what's your problem? Talk to me about your problems. Uh, and it wasn't. It was a very casual conversation, and I'm happy for those sessions that I had. And my therapist encouraged me to to document it. He said, "Hey, you really write poems. Why don't you ever write something more personal, I guess?" And that's where I took it. And then from there, I had a friend reach out to me saying, a friend of mine named Akil, he's got his own little, trying to start a video production company. He's like, "I would love to help you, like, bring this to light." And I was like, "That's weird. I don't, this isn't one of those that you kind of bring out to the public. This is my shame. This is something that no one must ever hear of. The dirty laundry that I always see people like performing about. I'm like, that's not me. That's not my thing, baby boy. Let's not." Uh, and from there, it 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 kind of, I enjoyed it. Like, I really liked the process of it, and it didn't feel like I was making myself more like vulnerable, I guess, per se, by talking about it. And the amount of people that I've had reach out to me from that poem was like a lot more than any of the other ones that I've ever written. And people just letting me know, yo, and there's like grown men hitting me up saying, "I needed to hear that. That resonated. That really resonated with me." And I can't believe I haven't like had someone relate to me like that. And I guess that feeling of putting something out into the world and seeing it do good was really something.
Especially something so vulnerable, hey?
Yeah, and well, it's helped me grow. The piece itself, the video, for anyone that's like watching and hopefully trying to interpret it. I have a friend of mine named Ali Dore, who acts out a lot of my inner thoughts in it, and the piece itself tries to kind of build to a crescendo to where he's thinking like, what should I do? How do I resort? How do I fix myself? How do I fix my problems? It seems like things are only getting worse and worse and worse. His little brother is acting out, my former self. And anytime you would go to your parents, your uncles, your aunties, and you would tell them that you're feeling certain things, and they would just kind of brush it off and say, just hold on, it's okay, it'll be okay, and just like pray it away type of thing. And the irony in it is that by the end of it, like at the end scene of the video, is him making wudu, getting ready to pray it away, because prayer was something that really did help me uh, through those tough times that I was having, because I realized I did lose my connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it really helped me. And I wasn't in that, the thing I noticed, I wasn't even praying in the sense of, please God, just like make it all go away, make all the problems go away, just pray the problems away. I was praying for absolutely everything but that, and it made me forget about the bad in my life, and it made me forget about the anxiety and the periods of depression, and it really was transformative for me. So I'm hoping that some other people picked up on that, and yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's beautifully done. Like, it's such an awesome piece, and I'm really excited. How are you like feeling about it getting accepted at Cadence?
I'm so hyped. Even if it doesn't win, I'm just happy that it got recognized like that, and I'm hoping that the next project that I put out, hopefully very soon here, uh, gets to see even more eyes and more people get to see it, because that's really what I do it for. If I wanted to write poems for myself, I could do it from the comfort of my own home, like Amir Suleiman says, eating a bowl of cocoa pebbles. But ideally, I'm hoping that the more eyes that I can reach, the more hearts I can touch, the happier that I get out of it, the sick satisfaction that I get from that. And I just know that this is kind of just the start, because that was my very first like video project, and I think like not like I edited like 95% of it.
Yeah.
Like so it's a fun process. I really really enjoy it, and just being a part of the process is really really fun. So just stay tuned. Coming to a Mosquers Film Festival potentially near you.
Hell yeah, we're excited.
Mhm.
And then I don't know where Sikandar went, but I have a very pressing question that I needed to ask.
Oh my god, I was on mute. I was on mute and I didn't even realize it. But I was before you get to your next question, just to follow up on that. How can people watch it? Is it available to watch right now,
Yeah,
or is it?
yeah. If you just go on my Instagrams at Omar Farah, first name, last name, with an at symbol in front of it. The link is typically in my bio. If not, there's a link to my YouTube channel, and you guys could find it on there. I plan on being a lot more active on that platform this coming summer. Haven't found myself a lot of free time. I've been in the lab writing a lot and recording a lot, so you'll
Perfect.
see a lot more from me.
Amazing.
Awesome.
And
Good call. Good call.
then you touched briefly on the fact that you're getting more into film, and you're enjoying the editing process, which is a sick fascination that I've also in the past dove into, and it's one where you can just lose hours upon hours. So props to enjoying that process. Um, so is there a project in the works right now? Is there a new project in the works that you can tell us a little bit about, or?
There's a few projects in the works right now. The one I don't mind telling you guys about is actually in the works in collaboration with Hamada, a few other friends of mine,
Ooh,
and
okay.
the good folks at Technique Creative, a little production company in Edmonton. And basically, to give you the log line, to keep it as vague as possible without giving away too much, it's the story of three young kids on their day on a very eventful walk to school, in a world very different from the one that we live in right now, but also not too far from it. And that's
Ooh.
about where I'll leave it at. And hopefully,
That's a
it's in
teaser right
pre-production.
there.
It's in pre-production right now. We
Is
were.
there a working title?
Uh, is there a working title?
Is there a
There
working
is
title? Is
actually.
there like a title for the project, or is that a giveaway,
That there is.
or is
There is.
that a TBD?
It's a working title. It might change. Right now, it's just listed as late again. Question mark.
Okay, all right.
Oh.
Late
You
again.
know,
You heard it here first.
you might see some. Corona had to stop it. We were literally the week before the world shut down. We were doing casting for the kids that were going to play in the film. But
Film.
because of Miss Rona, we had to postpone that a little bit. We're going to wait until the dust kind of settles. We might be switching to a video casting type of thing, and then from there we go. I'm hoping the world's back up and running. I feel like every single week they just kind of push it down even further, but we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm hyped for it. I'm really hyped for it. I
Cool.
think you guys are gonna love it.
Right on.
That's dope. Okay, can I ask my question now?
Please.
Okay, listen, I know that you are a huge fan of BTS and other K-pop things,
It
but
is.
from you, I've heard mainly BTS. So, can you talk a little bit about BTS, K-pop, like why you love them, why you love it as a genre? Like, talk to us about that.
I would absolutely love to. I consider myself the Somali ambassador to Bangtan Sonyeondan, aka BTS, bro. I get slandered on the regular by all my friends, but then I'll sit down with them and play like two music videos for them. If you guys could just
Mhm.
see the quality that these guys put in, and they
Yeah,
put it
man.
like the North American music industry just needs to sit down with these guys and whoever the hell works at their record label and just learn tips. Like the music production quality is amazing. Music videos are on 1,000, and because I see them live, so like I see like the choreography and the pyrotechnics, like all. It's just it's everything. It's everything that you could want from a music act, all in one. And music
Yeah.
videos all have like a storyline, so it kind of flows together towards the end, and it's like fun piecing it all together. And it's just wow. I think like from the moment I heard them, oh my god, if I could tell you guys about that, man, it was 2017. It was on my way to uh, Saskatchewan. Basically, it was me and Misha Patel, uh, and Shima Robinson, another poet. We were all in a car together, right? We were gonna go to Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan, out of all places, for this poetry slam. And I think basically like what the setup was, hey, you guys could either pocket this amount of money and handle your own transportation, or we bring you guys there, type of thing, you know?
Mhm.
And he's just like, I got a car, let's pocket the extra money, let's make waves. So we're fighting over who gets the aux cord privileges, you know? And at that point, I'm still like a very heavy Kanye stan. All right, fight me if you want to. Uh, and so I'm like, so we're all fighting over the music. I said, okay, listen, I get an album, you guys get an album, and we'll just work from there. I played Dark Fantasy. She said, I'm gonna play this Korean group. I said, why are you doing this to me, bro? You're gonna make me listen to Korean pop music for an hour? And that hour changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow.
Man, by the end of
And
it,
Nisha and I used to sit on a board together, and she is hardcore BTS as well. So it is not surprising that she's the one who
hardcore.
introduced you
Oh
to
That's
that
the
my
entire
opposite.
world.
god. She flies from city to city seeing them on the same tour. She's
Wow, really?
Yeah, she's
different. Like
That's
literally,
dedication.
she'll go to Vancouver and then Seattle and then Chicago. All I love it. I love it. If I could do the
That's
same.
amazing. Yeah, no, but I honestly like I think just because of how incredible they are as performers,
Mhm.
totally just like suck you in. Like I didn't know, I knew the world was obsessed, but I didn't know much. And then they were on SNL,
Uh huh.
Saturday Night
Uh huh.
Live, for
Uh
those
huh.
of you who don't. And I was
Oh, is
like,
that what it
I
stands for?
literally yeah, I think you didn't know. And I like was rewinding it and I watched both of their performances like 2 or 3 times each because I was like, this is amazing. Like, how are you that coordinated and talented and like stylish and cool? And like, how is this song so catchy? Like, it was blasting my mind.
They suck you in. I'm telling you.
They do.
There,
It
there's
was
a
incredible.
there's a Radiolab episode about K-pop, which if you haven't heard it, I would highly recommend it. It is wild. Like
Yeah.
that
Ooh.
industry is so manufactured. It's
Oh,
insane.
absolutely, absolutely, and I love every second of it.
Yeah.
Okay, I know all the
With
dance
Diane
parts, I know the terrible
Harrison.
parts, I know the plastic surgery and all of that jazz. But
No,
trust me,
but
these guys are
down to
different.
like relationships to like
Yeah,
it's wild,
yeah,
wild, wild,
man.
wild. But you should listen to that
Beautiful.
Radiolab episode.
Send it
Very
to me afterwards. I'll find it. I'll
That's
find
cool.
it.
dope. Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Okay, we are coming up
Um,
to an hour here, so we really appreciate your time, Omar. Sophie, is there anything else you wanted to ask him before we jump into our rapid fire round?
Ooh.
No, I'm just really excited for everything that's gonna come from you as an artist in the future. Like, I'm stoked. You are so young
Yeah, this
and
guy is
so
going
talented,
places
and I am,
without a
yeah,
doubt.
I'm just
I'm
really excited
I'm really glad we got a chance to talk to Omar and have him on his team before he becomes like an
before it blows up.
internationally renowned
Yeah.
celebrity who's gonna big time
Mhm.
us. And
There's a
And
direct
then we can be
correlation,
like, where do
guys.
you
Success in the Mosquers, guys. Y'all had
yeah,
Rami Yusuf out here, then he
the
popped like right
pivot
afterwards.
point, the
Oh,
That's
pivot
right.
point.
That's right.
This
We're
is
star makers, I
you
heard.
know what? You heard it.
absolutely.
Okay, so before we get into this rapid round of questions, which is how we have now started to end our episodes, how can people find you, Omar? You already gave us your Instagram and YouTube. Is that the other area where most of your work lives, or?
Exactly. That's right where it is. At symbol Omar Farah. If you want to say it properly, or Omar Farah, ask your mother. That's where you'll find it.
Amazing. Okay, let's get into it. One word answers or whatever comes to your mind first. There's no right or wrong answer except for according to Sophia, when her question comes up, there are right and wrong answers. But it's first thing that comes to your mind. Okay, ready?
Okay,
You
go.
good? Okay. Mario or Luigi?
Neither. Yoshi.
Okay.
No. Winter or
all
summer?
right, Mario.
No. That's fine. That's an acceptable
Yoshi
answer.
works, man. Yoshi works. Winter or summer?
Winter. I like layers.
Okay. Sweet or savory?
Sweet. Very sweet.
All right. Favorite type of potato?
Chick-fil-A waffle fries. Ah.
Oh, that's very
Yes, waffle
specific.
fries.
Okay. All right. With the sauce or without the sauce?
Absolutely. All the Chick-fil-A sauce that you can fit onto a single
Okay.
potato.
Got it. So for clarity, you like the sauce and not the potato. Okay, moving on. Most binge-worthy show that we can stream right now on any streaming platform.
Oh, okay. I know. I feel like I'm going hard for the Korean stuff, but Itaewon Class on Netflix and every other platform.
I've heard about this.
Amazing.
So this is like a K-pop. Is it like a reality show or a drama?
It's a drama, but like it's a celebrity show for us. I don't know why they call them dramas.
I don't know either. Because of all the drama, Omar. Yeah, okay. And then last question is, what is your most rewatched movie in your life?
Rush Hour 1.
Yeah.
Good choice.
Yeah, that movie is amazing.
Omar, thank you so much for joining us, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys taking the time out of your Friday nights. Well, I appreciate it.
Well, we did have a lot going on, so you're very welcome.
I stayed in for you. I appreciate it.
I am not.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. Again, at Omar Farah across the board, Instagram, YouTube. Check him out. He's an incredible poet. We're very, very happy to have him. Omar, thanks for your time, man.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you enjoyed that episode. You can find us on all social media platforms by searching Mosquers Film Festival, and we'll see you next time.
That was good. We're keeping that. We are 100% keeping that.
Just breaks down
great.
right
No, that was great.
It's just so sad, man. I'm not going to see anybody next time.
We'll talk at you next time.